Welcome to Thursday. It is Meet the Press Daily, and I'm Chuck Todd. Right now, the president and members of Congress have a major dilemma on their hands when it comes to the future of our democracy. It's a dilemma that's bigger than simply trying to come to an agreement on a January 6th commission, and it's arguably bigger than any single legislative priority, even the sweeping H.R. 1 bill on voting rights. What I'm talking about is the growing movement among Republicans at the state level aiming to give Trump allies more power to subvert election results, essentially rig the umpires, buy off the umps. A lot of the current conversation around voting laws has been about voting access. Yes, there are more hurdles, but hurdles you can jump over. Crooked umps is harder to deal with. But that's not what we're focusing on here. We're focusing on the crooked ump issue. Bottom line, these Republican efforts could make the chaos of the 2020 election look quaint compared to what we might see in future elections. Let me walk you through this. Right now, as you can see here, Republican legislatures in states across the country, from coast to coast, Montana to Florida, are enacting a slew of new restrictive voting laws, seemingly in response to the lies about election fraud being pushed by Donald Trump, still being pushed by him, by the way. Amazing how many elected Republicans just ignore and stick their head in the sands at this delusional stuff that the former president pumps out every day. Anyway, this is not just about limiting access to voting. In some of these new laws, the changes to how elections will be administered are what could be most impactful. Let me take you to Georgia. That's a place where the law has already been enacted, and this takes power away from the Secretary of State's office. Well, we knew, which you might remember, they did intervene. They did defend the state's election results from Trump's attacks. They won't be able to do that next time. Now, Trump loyalists in the state's Republican legislature will have sweeping new powers over potentially certifying those election results. Let me take you to the state of Texas. The law the Democrats have blocked for now will give courts more power to void election results. And the burden of proof is a huge issue here because it's explicitly written into the proposed law that the court could declare an election void without first attempting to find out how some individual voters actually voted. Let me take you to Arizona, where Republicans are conducting that bizarre audit, if you will. A proposed law would strip the current Secretary of State, a Democrat, of her powers to defend election laws before 2024. And in Arkansas, a new law is already on the books, and it gives the state's election board a lot more power to decertify an election official or simply take over election administration. So what makes these Republican measures so powerful is that there is basically nothing to counteract them in the Democrats' federal legislation on voting rights. The legislation would expand voting access. It would try to limit gerrymandering. It would increase some financial transparency when it comes to campaign finance, dark money groups. Doesn't deal with election administration at the state level really at all. So what we're seeing is a case of asymmetrical warfare where Democrats are battling over who gets to vote. Republicans are also focusing on who gets to decide which votes actually count. Think of it this way. In a close game, in baseball or basketball, a crooked ref or a crooked ump can tip the balance. Well, in a close election, that's what we're staring at. You win by 10 runs, you don't have to worry about a crooked ump. You win by 10 votes, you might.